Welcome to the Genesis of the Doctor podcast, where we're taking a journey through the time and space of the history of Doctor Who. I'm Joy,
And I'm Tris.
and for today's episode, we're focusing on the final serial of season 4, which is The Evil of the Daleks. And I have to say, I found this one to be very messy.
Yeah.
I think it had like the same issue that Power of the Dalek, or not Power, the Daleks Master Plan had, where like there are good ideas in here. It just that they don't spend enough time on the good ideas, and they spend too much time on not as good ideas, I feel.
yeah, 100%. It has a lot of ups and downs, and there's a lot of cool ideas here, a lot of good ideas, in fact. But it definitely is a little all over the place.
Yeah. Like, they spend 2 episodes in the modern day stuff, and then I feel like none of that amounted to anything, so you could have just gotten through that in like 10 minutes.
Yeah, none of it amounted to anything, even though someone gets murdered.
Yeah.
It only amounts to the fact that, oh, this man's a time traveler, and he's brought the Doctor and Jamie back in time with him. All
Yeah.
of that amounted to basically explaining why they end up in a different time period, even though they could have just gotten in the TARDIS, arrived there randomly, and then the TARDIS gets taken from them, and that could happen in a 5 to 10 minute long sequence.
Yeah. And I found that modern day stuff just so funny because it like there's the whole thing about like in the matchbook, a left-handed person pulled the matches out, and then that literally doesn't matter.
Nope,
They have a whole
nope, it
conversation
doesn't.
about it, and then like nothing happens with it.
The only purpose for it is to identify the meeting place, which the meeting place is how they tell the Doctor go to this shop.
Yeah.
Like, that's it.
I feel like they could have just like from the airport, they could have just led them towards like Waterfield's place, and like there you go.
Yeah, like
You can skip
somebody
everything
giving
in
them a
between.
message. Exactly, like somebody giving them a message at the airport that they are needed at this shop. Oh, okay, well, I guess we'll go check that out.
Yeah.
Or the TARDIS, being told the TARDIS was brought there. If you wish to see the box, come to this location, this day, this time. Like, it's really, really weird how it starts off.
Yeah. I did like the doctor trying to stack sugar cubes, though.
I have that noted too. The Doctor stacking the sugar cubes and getting upset when they fall over was a funny little detail. But one thing that's kind of a big deal here that really just goes unaccounted for the entire rest of the serial is the fact that Waterfield is kind of running a fraud time travel business
Yeah.
in the present day for some reason. He's running an antique shop, bringing things from his time period 100 years ago to the present day at the time. And there's no reason for that.
Yeah.
Like, he's not trying to make money from all of that. His only purpose for being in that time is to catch the Doctor or to bring the Doctor back in time.
Yeah. I feel like that idea would have been a very interesting, like, whole story of just, like, a person using time travel to get Victorian artifacts to sell.
Yep.
Like, that would be an interesting concept for, like, its own episode. But then it's just a background detail here that they just forget about.
And it doesn't go anywhere. Yeah, even though that's like a rather like complex setup.
Yeah, and like, they
And
don't.
yet,
When we go back to Victorian times, we're not even told, like, how they sent them to him.
nope.
They don't show where they came from or anything.
Nope. They don't show. I imagine they just came from around the house or something.
Yeah.
Just a bunch of random things because, like, we do see the time travel device much later in the serial. Somehow that's how they get the Scaro, even though that makes no sense.
Yeah. Static
Because it
electricity
seems
and
like
mirrors are their time travel, and I don't understand how that works.
static electricity in mirrors is not just the time travel, it's like the transport in general. It attracts the Daleks. So I guess now, God forbid, you have a static electricity day in the winter, you might summon the Daleks on a dry day.
Yep.
That's what that means, I guess. They're like parasites that thrive on static electricity, which doesn't make sense. Even though every movement they're making throughout the entirety of this serial has nothing to do with static electricity otherwise.
Yeah. And it could have been because,
Um,
that's how they used to travel around.
yep. But like the machine that the Doctor, Waterfield, and Jamie use, that time travel device, which is the same one, or I guess identical to the one that was in their present day, it should only move between those two objects. The Doctor didn't really mess with it at all. So the fact that they use that to also get the Skaro, on top of the Daleks using something weird with mirrors, is just very strange and doesn't make much sense at all.
Yeah. I did like the cliffhanger in episode 1, though, where Dalek shows up and then gets ready to kill the guy.
The Dalek just showing up to kill Kennedy, yeah.
Who are you? What are you doing here?
Yeah, see, that's more like the Daleks that we know, where they kill first, ask questions later.
Yeah.
But I think once we kind of settled in 1866, and we had this whole plot happening in this one mansion, I think it got really interesting. I actually really enjoyed Jamie's whole heroic quest, even though it was
Yeah.
all a trial set up by the Daleks. I kind of loved seeing what he did there, even though he did it out of spite to the Doctor, technically.
Yeah. I kind of like that where you find out, like, he was purposefully manipulating Jamie.
Yeah,
Interesting.
he's good at it, that's for sure. That's the Doctor we know.
Yep. He loves to manipulate his companions.
For better or for worse.
Also, I'm not sure if you noticed, but there were weeping angel candlesticks in the manor there.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
It was in the room that they all woke up in, on the fireplace there. There were candlesticks that had weeping angels in them. Originally, it
Oh,
was
that's
just
funny.
like regular angels, and then for the
Yeah.
animation, they're just, well, we could just turn those into weeping angels.
It was a fun little reference. That's funny.
And then there were like shields on the walls that had names of different people who played the Doctor in the future as well.
You know what? These little like Easter eggs are actually like really fun parts of these animations. I think
Yeah.
just the effort that goes into them, I think, are pretty fun.
It's funny
Seeing
though
what people
because
can
like
catch.
one of them has Baker on it, one of them has Eccleston, and there's one that has Whitaker, but it's spelled wrong. So it's Whitaker with one T. So like technically that could be a reference to David Whitaker who wrote this story, but the
That's
other ones are
true.
doctors. So it could also be misspelled Jodie Whittaker.
The double reference.
Yeah.
That's kind of funny though. I think I have two major points about this story that I do really want to talk about though, and that's the Kemmel and our main villain Max. I did not write down his name. Maxterfield, something
Maxtable.
like that.
Maxtable.
Maxtable.
Yeah.
Maxtable. I for some reason combined his name and Waterfield. Which, by the way, Maxtable had a flub at one point and called Waterfield Whitefield. And I like raised an eyebrow when that happened. I was like, is he trying to tell us that's not his real name? Oh, no, that was a flub. All right.
Yeah.
But let's talk about Maxwell first, because this man was kind of a disappointing villain.
Yeah. Like
Like,
he kind of reminds me of the guy from Underwater Menace, where it's just like, he's so obsessed with a secret. Maybe that's the secret the Doctor was talking about in his note.
that's what I think. Like, I got the same vibe that it was that kind of mad scientist, but he's so cartoonishly evil. Like, this is like a plot out of DuckTales. Like, oh, gold fever, ooh, like that's it. That's this man's entire plot.
Yeah.
Like, he wants gold. And when they finally reveal that that's what the secret he wanted was, I literally like was like, I had to pause. I was like, he just wants to make metal into gold. Like, that's the big secret he wants. That's the big answer he needs. Like, with all this buildup, I thought it was gonna be like the secret to immortality or like true time travel or something, since he was clearly interested in that fact. No, it's make metal into gold.
Yeah. Like, I mean, with time travel, you could do a scam like the other guy was doing, and you can make
Yeah,
money that
like,
way.
and this man already had a mansion, so he also already had a lot of money.
Yeah. I did find it a bit interesting, though, how later on he gets semi converted into a Dalek, which makes him
Yep,
a bit more interesting.
it does. It's he's still just as crazy, but
Yeah.
yeah, it became his gold fever became his downfall. He ends up being controlled by the Daleks with the Dalek factor put into him.
I did find it weird, though, that, like they gave him hypnosis powers, which was used in one scene. So, like, okay.
Yeah,
Just like
he was
how,
a bit of a mess of a character.
like, there was the other guy who's married to Maxwell's daughter, I think it was. And then he's controlled by the
Yes.
Daleks, and he didn't really need to be, because, like, they didn't do that much with that concept.
Yeah, yeah, Terrell, I think his name was.
Yeah.
Arthur Terrell. We also had that weird sequence with the Doctor figuring out that there was something wrong with him, and that he had electricity flowing through him with magnetism. Like that was incredibly out of nowhere,
Yeah.
and didn't really amount to anything either.
Yeah, like we said, it's a bit messy. There's some stuff here that
Yeah.
like didn't really need to be there, and if you cut it out, you could spend more time on other stuff.
Yep. 100%.
Like how
But
Jamie gets kidnapped at the beginning, and then it lasts like 5 minutes.
and all it does is raise his suspicions. That's the only thing it serves,
Yeah,
raising his suspicions. But there's another prominent character in the story that I think we need to talk about a bit, and that's Kemmel.
yeah,
And I really don't know how to feel about Kemmel because I feel like a lot of what his character is comes from a period of the time, so to say. It is a product of the time that is a bit on the racist side.
yeah, for sure. Like it's so weird how they're like, he can understand language, he just can't speak, and then his
Mm-hmm.
his whole purpose is just that he's strong. And then
And then he's friends
his death
with
scene's like
Victoria.
so stupid because they have Maxwell show up to kill him and then get called back. So like he just kills him for no reason, really.
Yep. I really did not like how they killed Kemmel, especially with it being Maxable, because Kemmel should have easily been able to just chuck him off the side himself.
I feel like if they wanted to kill him there, they could have just had him fall with Maxwell and have them both go over, and then like
Yeah.
that would be a better ending. But nope.
Like he goes out defending Victoria. Nope.
Yeah, Maxwell just goes back,
Even
and then we don't see what happens to him.
yeah, yeah. It's not a very good end. It's disrespectful to Kemmel's character,
Yeah,
especially with Victoria giving the weak poor Kemmel. Like,
yeah,
like almost like pity as opposed to like actually feeling bad that like presumably her close friend just died.
yeah. Because he was like, I guess, like the only person that got to see her while she was in captivity, seemingly.
Yep.
Or maybe she was.
Yeah,
Maybe they didn't see each other. I don't know, but it kind of seemed like
we
he
don't
he had seen her.
we don't really know why they're friends or how they know each other,
Yeah,
like at all.
I feel like it's probably a
And
situation where like Victoria's the only nice person in in the
yeah,
mansion. Maxwell only sees
yeah,
him for
it's
his
probably like that.
purposes, his strength.
Hmm.
That's it.
I liked the friendship that he made with Jamie though. I did like that. I thought that was actually really nice seeing Jamie trying to treat everybody with respect and trying to befriend a bunch of people around him and actually be like very good to them, even though he and Kemmel tried to kill each other when they first met.
Yeah, I did like how he saves Kimmel's life Like, almost
Yeah.
immediately realizing that he's now in danger, he goes and saves him.
Yep. Yep. It was good for Jamie, but I also thought it was good for Kemal. I just wish there was a lot more to his character because he really does feel like someone that, in a story like this, should have played a bigger role, but product at the time made them say, "Nah, we're not going to do that."
Yeah. Like, it's nice to see that they actually have people of color in the show now, but, they're not doing much with them.
Not even giving them lines to speak.
Yeah. They're not doing blackface as
Yes.
much anymore, but the actual people of color that are in the show aren't given major roles.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a shame. It's a shame.
We will see this actor coming back, though, but we never see his face because he's just going to be an Ice Warrior multiple times now.
Huh. Okay.
But yeah.
I mean, at least he gets to come back and keep doing things, but
Yeah.
hmm.
I also find it so funny how they use a rope to just push a Dalek to the wall and it explodes. And it's like,
Yeah.
I guess Daleks were really weak back then. Because I don't
Yeah,
think a
back
modern day
then.
Dalek would die that easily.
No, some of these Daleks, even in earlier seasons, were like dying way too easily, exploding way too easily. It's really funny.
Yeah.
Dare I say, the Daleks killing each other with their beams, with their lasers, is less explosive than them casually running into a wall.
Yeah. It's like the Dalek Invasion of Earth movie where they just push him down a ramp and he explodes.
Yeah, it is exactly like that, actually.
That was just in the movie, though, so it wasn't in the actual episode.
hmm So, obviously, we've talked about Max Hubble, we've talked about Kemal. We do need to talk about the Waterfields, though. Both of them. Because they're pretty important to the story.
I definitely feel like the father was a more interesting character in this one, at least.
Mm.
Like, he was a very interesting character. He had so much to do, and then Victoria kind of didn't have a lot to do in this story.
She was just a damsel,
Yeah,
unfortunately. She was just a damsel that, for some reason, as soon as she was on Skaro, she knew who the doctor was, even though she hadn't met him yet.
yeah,
So it is a little weird. I think Victoria has a weak start because she's just a damsel in distress, so we don't really get an idea of what kind of a person she is, other than she does note that she'll protect Kemal, and I find that interesting because it gives us a little bit of uh, a look inside as to how she is as a character and how she um, helps people around her. But given the situation she's been in for the entire story, it's not a ton to go off of.
yeah. I did find it just a bit weird too how like everybody falls in love with her very quickly, which is weird.
Yeah,
Jamie falls for her,
it is a
Kemal
bit
falls for
weird.
her. It's just a bit weird. I will
It
say,
is.
there was like a book in the 1990s that established how old she is here, and it makes it very weird because she's only like 15 years old.
Okay.
I feel like the original intention kind of implies she's more like 18 ish,
Yeah.
but yeah, later on it's established that she's only 14, 15 years old here, which makes
Okay.
that very weird.
From our perspective nowadays, it's very weird.
Yeah.
For back then, I guess that was more normal. Not that it excuses it at all, but
And then they have like they establish that she looks exactly like her mother was 20 years ago or something. But
yep.
yeah,
Which is also a little bit weird, but
I feel like it's difficult to have a strong opinion on Victoria so far because they didn't do that much with her yet.
mm-hmm.
I will say, apparently, they had originally thought of making Molly, the maid, the new companion. And I think that would have been more interesting, kind of.
She was more actively involved, and she kind of had that companion-like curiosity about her.
Yeah.
So it felt like they were playing around with the idea there, especially with how much she wanted to help Jamie. It did kind of feel like she was turning into a companion.
Yeah.
Also, is Molly even still alive?
She left with Maxwell's kids, right? I think, or like
I
Maxwell's.
don't. I don't think she left. I don't think I said she left with them. I think it was just Maxwell's kids that left. I don't think they said anything about her. I might
Yeah,
have
I'm not
missed it,
sure.
but
Like I think we didn't see her after they left, so I kind of assumed she just left with them. I don't know.
it's hard to say because it's a bit messy, and they blew up the house rather suddenly
Yeah, that was funny. I was just all of a sudden, Dalek just decided to blow up the house.
for no reason.
Yeah, it's not like there was much proof of like they'd been there or anything. Not like they would even care, anyways.
Yeah, so that doesn't even matter to them normally. So it's like they did it just to force everyone to come to Scarrow anyway.
Yeah, I think it would have been interesting to have Molly be the companion though, because like having someone come from being a maid and then now
Yeah,
they get like all of time and space to get shown. It would have been
yeah.
an interesting concept.
Learn to respect themselves a little bit too.
Kind of would have been like Katarina, but then hopefully they would have actually done something with her.
Instead of killing her off instantly.
Yep.
Hmm. There's one other big point to talk about, and that's the Daleks themselves, because I love the scene of the Daleks that have the human factor playing games and taking the Doctor for a ride. That's so funny.
Yeah, it was
That
very
was
funny.
such an entertaining scene.
And I liked like the Dizzy Daleks, Dizzy Doctor.
Uh, the the Dizzy Daleks and the sing-songy voice both times was really funny. The Daleks being given names, the way they question. I even love the way their inflection is different when
Yeah,
they have like a bit of humanity in them. Like they sound more inquisitive, more playful, and it's so good. It's so good.
yeah. I also really liked the scene where when they're on Scarrow, they meet someone who has like the Daleks wrote the symbol on them,
Yep.
and it's just like, so how did the Daleks even write that? Is my question, because they don't have hands and they don't have like pencils or anything.
My guess is they might have made someone else, like one of the other people there, write it, like Maxtable or something,
Yeah, I
when
guess.
they made them scream and all that.
Yeah, and then the Doctor just like brutally murders that Dalek. It was not the right
Yeah,
one. It wasn't my handwriting. Yeah,
it was not his.
I feel like this is kind of like Daleks in Manhattan, but like a more interesting version of that, where
I think so. Yeah, it's definitely a similar idea of the Daleks wanting to become human a little bit, or at least to learn what makes humanity able to survive. Then they don't like it, so then it's okay. Now we're just gonna turn humans into Daleks instead.
yeah, I mean they kind of imply that they just had to see how the Doctor isolated the human essence, so
Yeah.
that they could then isolate the Dalek essence.
Mm-hmm.
I did find it funny though how like the whole point of this story is they need the Doctor to use the TARDIS to help them, but like they have their own time machines. They, they
Yeah.
they've used their own time machines multiple times. Like, did they run out of them or something?
Yeah, there's no real reason why they have to use specifically the Doctor's TARDIS to do it. And even then, if it's like, oh, well, it's like the Doctor's punishment to the Daleks. Like, they're going to make him be the one to destroy humanity that way. Even still, why?
Like, the Doctor doesn't know how to fly the TARDIS properly, so
Yeah.
he wouldn't actually be able to do it even if he tried, because he wouldn't be able to
Well,
land
now
on
this
Earth.
iteration of the Doctor claims to know exactly what he's doing, but that's
Yeah,
besides the
I
point.
mean, he says that, but then when he means to go to Mars, they land up on the moon. So he's kind of close, but not
Mm-hmm.
quite. Yeah, I kind of wish they spent more time in Scarrow, because I feel like that was kind of the more interesting part of the story. And then it's only two
Yeah.
episodes long.
Mm-hmm. It should have been a lot bigger. It should have been, I want to say, maybe the whole second half of it.
Yeah,
There should have been a lot more to it, and it felt kind of rushed. I mean, I think that's why Kemmel's death feels a bit rushed. Waterfield's death feels a bit rushed. The very end of just going to the TARDIS itself seems very quick. I really do think it is a case of the pacing throughout the story is a bit of a mess, and there's a bit too much going on in general that they don't really stick with any idea for long enough.
Yeah.
And it's a shame.
Like, there's a whole interesting story in like having a Dalek civil war and everything, and having
Yep.
Daleks starting to question their orders, and then it's just kind of very compact,
Yep.
very rushed through.
Yeah, it's a bit sad because this was supposed to be the final Dalek story. I feel like
Yeah,
kind of deserved a better end for them.
yeah,
In terms of like the actual storytelling, though, it is pretty climactic. I mean, you have the Daleks in like a little civil war, like you mentioned. They take out their own emperor, like pretty much destroy their city on Skara. Like that is a big deal.
yeah. And this is the first time we've seen the Dalek Emperor. Although
Mm-hmm.
apparently Dalek Emperor was first in comics. So this is like technically the second time a character has jumped from the comics into the show, because
Oh, okay.
the Black Dalek also started in the comics,
Right.
and then
That makes sense.
eventually we see the Dalek Emperor. We see another Dalek Emperor with the Ninth Doctor.
Yep. Wonder if we ever see any before then again.
Yeah, I'm not sure. You kind of have to wonder because, like, obviously the Fourth Doctor introduces Davros, and you kind of assume he might essentially replace the need for a Dalek Emperor.
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's true.
Yeah, this was supposed to
So
be the finale of the
if this is
Daleks.
the end, yeah, if this is the finale of the Daleks, though, when do we next see them? If we know offhand,
It's
like how I
season.
know you said it's a few seasons.
I think season nine's premiere. I think is when we see them next. So that's uh 3 seasons into the Third Doctor era.
Wow. Okay.
Because
So no more with the second Doctor.
yeah, because what happened was Terry Nation was trying to get a Dalek show up and running. That was like the
Mm-hmm.
show with Sarah Kingdom and everything. And
Right.
originally he was pitching it, I think, to American companies, and then he pitched it to the BBC, and the BBC said no. So he said, "Okay,
Mm-hmm.
stop using Daleks then." So
Wow.
they did. Although apparently, like, very last minute, Sidney Newman asked for them to not actually kill the Daleks off, and just like hint that they could come back. So that's why you have like the one scene where a Dalek powers back up at the end there,
Yep.
so that you can imply
I
that
mean,
they could be coming back.
same kind of thing as like what we had in the previous Dalek story, where you see like the one that kind of survives and sees the TARDIS dematerialize.
Yeah. So
There's
you can,
always some sort of survivor with the Daleks.
yeah. So they can imply that they will come back someday.
Mm-hmm.
Once
Yeah,
Terry
that
Nation
makes
likes the
sense.
BBC again, they can bring them back.
Yeah, yep.
And there were also other behind the scenes stuff that changed here. Our script editor, Jerry Davis, left halfway through the story. So we now have Peter Bryant, who is currently, well, he was a script editor for this, but he actually doesn't stay as a script editor. Apparently he's going to become the producer soon. And then
Oh, okay.
Victor Pemberton, who was the guy that I mentioned that was in the Moonbase as an actor, he's going to be the script editor for the next story. And I think he only stays for one episode, one story too.
I see, I see.
And then also, Sidney Newman leaves at the end of this season.
Mm-hmm.
So he was kind of one of the people that brought Doctor Who around, and then now he's left the BBC.
And he's kind of one of the last ones of the old guard, so to say.
Yeah. Yeah, apparently, Patrick Troughton proposed remaking this story as a movie in the 1980s. Because I guess he just really liked it.
He just really wanted. He just really enjoyed the Daleks taking him for a ride.
I guess. This was also the first story where they like purposefully did a rerun of it later on, where they did a rerun of this between seasons 5 and 6, and they just added like, I guess like a scene or something at the beginning where they imply that this is the second Doctor showing their new companion Zoe, or Zoe,
Oh,
like this story.
okay, interesting. I'm not quite sure how that works, but sure.
Yeah. And then this also has 2 different novelizations, and The 2023 one was written by Fraser Hines himself.
Oh, nice.
I think the Fraser Hines one also kind of uses the context of like this is Zoe being shown the story as well.
Mm-hmm.
So he
Or
technically
being or being told it from Jamie's perspective, kind of thing.
yeah, he technically did a novelization of that rerun. Is how he did it.
Interesting. Okay.
Oh, and I would like to also mention that a few episodes ago you asked about the recorder, like whose idea that was. I wasn't able to find
Mm-hmm.
exactly whose idea it was, but apparently the one recorder that's like the blue and white one that we've been seeing is actually Patrick Troughton's himself. Like belongs to him.
Oh.
So
Okay.
I assume he probably like showed up on set and was playing it, and then they just started writing it into stuff.
Yeah. So it's just part of him in general. That's fun. That's
Yeah.
pretty nice. Gets
Apparently,
to put a bit of himself into it.
sometimes he uses like a plain white recorder, and that is because they are worried that the recorder could get damaged in that scene, so they're not going to ask him to use his own.
Ah,
So
I
sometimes
see.
he has a different recorder, but the one we've been
He's
seeing
got a
is
few.
his.
The one in this story was like a blue and yellow also. So this one was also a
Yeah.
bit different looking.
I mean,
Although
that
that was
might
also
just
the animation.
yeah, that might just be the animation changing it slightly.
Mm-hmm.
Because it'd be hard to tell what color it is just from the black and white photographs, obviously.
Yeah, that's true.
Looking through my notes to see if I had much else here.
I think I'm good on notes for Evil of the Daleks. I mean, obviously we have to talk about, season 4 as a whole, but
Yeah.
for this specific serial, I think that's it on my own notes, unless you have more. Overall, I liked it, but I do wish it was better. It was a
Yeah.
bit messy. I think I enjoyed the last few stories better,
Yeah.
but it was still fun.
I guess the only other note I had here was when they were at the cafe. The doctor's like, "I'm being stared at, Jamie. Is something wrong with me?" And then Jamie says, "You mean up here?" and knocks his head. And the doctor's like, "Oh, my hair's wrong." No, that's not how he was saying. That's not what he was saying to you, doctor.
It's quite funny. Their
Yeah.
banter is pretty fun.
They get funny lines here and there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess that is all I had on my notes here. I think season 4 was very good for the most part.
Yeah,
Like the smugglers was
yeah, I agree.
definitely the
I
low point.
think- Yeah, I was
Then
gonna say it definitely has some low points.
after the smugglers, I feel like it was very good for most of it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of worried though that it will be a situation like season 1 was, where we're like, season 1's very good, and then it starts getting messy after the first season with the Doctor.
Oh,
I'm worried that like 5 and 6 will maybe be a bit more messy, but I guess we'll see.
we'll have to see. I'm hoping they're good because I think Troughton has had a pretty good first season. Here.
Yeah.
I think he's had a pretty good introduction.
Yeah, but like I said, we are getting new producers and script editors now, so we'll have to see and hope that hopefully the quality stays up.
Yeah, we'll have to see.
I know that some of the stories next season are widely regarded as being pretty good, so it might be good.
Mm-hmm. Here's hoping.
Yeah. What would you say is your favorite story of the season?
Mm, honestly, really hard to say because there was a lot of really good stories in here, and I
Yeah.
feel like the more I kind of think back on it, my opinions kind of change. Like sometimes in the moment I was a little iffy on some, but then I look back on it, it's like actually that was actually like pretty good. Um, I do think the moon base was really good though. There's just something
Yeah.
about that one that really stands out to me. It was a really good Dalek story. It was a really good story for the companions. They each had something to do.
Yeah. I would say my
And it
favorite is
felt tense.
probably Power of the Daleks for the season.
That one was also really, really good.
Yeah. I would say the best Dalek story we've had in Classic Who.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree.
Even after this one, it's still the best one we've had.
Mm-hmm. I think the only reason why it's lower for me is because I would have liked I would have liked them not to have dropped the Doctor kind of figuring out his new regeneration
Yeah,
as quickly as they did, because they did kind of drop that one fairly quick,
yeah.
and I would have liked to have seen that persist a bit more.
It is also funny just looking back and thinking that, like, in those first couple early stories, the second Doctor really liked wearing costumes and stuff, and then now he immediately dropped that.
Yeah, that's a little sad.
And then, like, he really liked hats, and that's also been dropped. And
Yeah.
it's just some little quirks of the character that they only did for, like, 2 stories.
Yeah, it's a shame, because it would have been nice to see them keep that up as like a running thing.
It's also funny just because, like, people... Like, I feel like the stovetop hat thing is, like, a thing that you've seen with the second Doctor, like, shared all the time. And then it's in, like, one episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really liked season 4. I feel like it was
Yeah.
mostly very strong.
Yeah, I think overall it's definitely one of the better seasons that we've seen in a while.
It is a bit funny just to think that the current producer purposefully wanted, like, modern day companions, which is why they brought in Ben and Polly. And then now by the time he's heading out the door, he has now given them 2 companions from the past, which is just a bit funny to think about.
And we've never really had that before, but I think it can make for some really interesting character interactions. Let's just hope they actually stay true to that.
Yeah. I guess we'll
Because
have to
Jamie
see.
never really questioned the Daleks much.
Yeah. We'll have to see what Victoria's like when she's given a bit more to do.
Yep, yep. Hopefully she'll be more interesting then.
Yeah. Anything else to say about season 4 as a whole that you want to mention?
I just think it was very strong overall. Like, yes, there were low points, but I do think it had better highs than some of the past few seasons before it.
Yeah.
And I definitely am enjoying this second Doctor so far, and I look forward to seeing what else they're able to do with him.
Yeah. I think it is just a bit funny to think that, like, this season has 2 Dalek stories and 2 Cyberman stories, which is just like,
Yep.
that never happens. Never
No.
happens anymore. And it definitely won't happen again anytime soon. Because obviously,
Not for a while.
the second Doctor has a bunch of Cyberman stories, and then the third Doctor doesn't have Cyberman stories. And the second Doctor's not going to have more Daleks.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll see if way later on they have more Cybermen and Daleks right next to each other.
Feels like something they might do with the fourth Doctor since he has such a long reign.
Yeah. And I know next season we're getting Ice Warriors. I think the
True.
Great Intelligence, I believe, is also season 5. So we're going to meet him as well.
If I remember correctly, also looking at our reference document here, we're also once again going straight from Cybermen to or from Daleks to Cybermen.
Yep. We will be
Because our
seeing...
very next story, the start of the next season, is a very iconic Cybermen episode, but we'll talk about that a little bit later when it's time.
Yeah.
Because we have some other things to talk about first.
Yeah, there has been a lot of news recently. Because last time we recorded, it was Doctor Who Day. And then just more stuff came out that day. And then more stuff has come out afterwards.
Yep, quite a lot.
So sticking to the second Doctor, the War Games is getting a colorization. Which is particularly noteworthy because they're redoing the regeneration sequence. And it's going to be totally different.
We're actually getting to see that regeneration sequence, in fact.
Yeah.
We didn't even in the past, I heard.
Yeah, because originally it's just like you see the second Doctor's face start to change, and then the episode ends. And then the next time we just see the third Doctor fall out of the TARDIS.
Yeah.
And now they're like actually going to have regeneration in there from the second to third Doctor. Which apparently it's there were fans that posted like a regeneration like that to YouTube, and apparently it's just those people that they noticed them and said like, hey, you want to just put this in our actual episode?
Oh, okay. Interesting.
So you could technically look that up and find it online already, and it's probably just going to be more or less the same thing.
Maybe like a little bit cleaner, but yeah.
This colorization is also noteworthy because the War Games is 10 episodes long, and the colorization is going to be 90 minutes. So you have to wonder how that's gonna work. I don't,
Yeah, are they just
obviously
cutting a lot?
we haven't gotten to that yet, so we don't know like how easy it would be to cut it down that much. But yeah, feels like you're gonna have to skip quite a bit of it because
Did they give a release date for that?
it comes out on BBC iPlayer on the 23rd of December, so
Oh,
it's out very
okay.
soon.
Here I was being like, oh, I wonder if the colorization will be out by the time we get to that point. Yes, yes, it will
Yeah,
be.
I mean for us the issue will be that I don't think it's getting like a streaming release outside of Britain. Although
Ah,
the Dalek colorization did get a Blu-ray version, so we might get that. But
we might have a way to watch it. Just
yeah,
yeah.
it's similar to Tales of the TARDIS, where they didn't use Disney money for it, so they're not putting it out on streaming elsewhere. Because,
Uh,
like, Disney owns Doctor Who international streaming rights, but they don't want to give them everything.
they got to make it difficult. Can't we just have all of it in one place everywhere,
Yeah,
so everyone can enjoy it? Like, come on.
I mean, I will say it's relatively easy to find Tales of the TARDIS, and also
Yeah,
the Dalek colorization if you know where to look for them.
yeah,
So
very
it will be easy to find it. It's just, not officially.
true. True.
And then also on that note, the Savages from the first Doctor is getting an animation, which they just announced.
Yeah, that was very recent. They just announced that. That's going to be very interesting because I think when that comes out, I would like to like look back on it and see just how different it is. But
Yeah,
it's definitely a case of the significance there is it's Steven's final story.
yeah. I'm hoping that Peter Purvis will do an audio commentary with them for it, because like
That would be
he
nice.
has done it for other stuff. Like he did it for Celestial Toymaker most recently.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he would have interesting things to say about that story.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, but yeah, I think that's going to be a good story for animation as well, just because like so much of it is about like the look of the city and everything, and then we don't really get.
Which we don't get.
Yeah, you don't get a good look at it in just the telesnaps.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I will definitely check that out when it comes out. I don't remember if it had a release date. I think it might have been. If there was one, I think it was like still a few months away. I don't
Yeah,
remember.
it's sometime in 2025, but I don't think they gave a date
Yeah,
specifically.
I did find it funny how like on the BBC website they had like here's a comment from the producer of this, and it's just like the most basic comment ever, where it's just like we have teams working on these animations, and like that was like his whole comment. There was like nothing
Shows
there.
how much he has to say about this story. He's real passionate about this one.
Yeah, they are slowly getting through animating everything. I think
Yeah,
apparently there's only like 10 stories left, I think, to do animations
yeah.
of.
Soon,
Something
soon
like that.
enough, we'll have them all.
Yeah,
Although, if they're only doing like one or two a year, it will still take quite a while. But
yeah.
yeah,
And Daleks Master Plane will probably take a while because that's 12 stories. 12 episodes they have to do.
yeah.
I assume that might be saved for last just because it will cost money.
Even so, that's one to hype up. Like the Daleks master plan,
Yeah,
the final animation. That's something they can hype up in that way.
yeah. I would love to see Marco Polo because I feel like that's a story that'll be very good. Get to actually see it move and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Agreed.
I will also say there's a fan animation of a story from next season that just came out as well, which is I think it's the Wheel in
Mm-hmm.
Space, which is the one completely missing story from next season. So when we get to
Oh,
that,
okay.
we could watch fan animation of it instead of a loose cannon reconstruction, because it's
Yeah.
I've taken a look at it and it's like it's clearly done with lack of a budget, but it's also done by very talented animators. So like it's not
Right.
the best, but they did pitch it to the BBC and say, "Hey, do you want to like fund this?" And the BBC apparently said that they don't want to do 3D animations anymore, and that's a 3D story.
Oh. Okay.
I guess people didn't like the last couple 3D animations, so they're just going to be doing 2D animations now, which is a bit weird, I feel.
Yeah, that's strange, but sure. All right, I guess.
Yeah. And then there was a bit more info that in the recent issue of Doctor Who magazine, we got the confirmation that Joy to the World is not going to be releasing at midnight in Britain like this last season was. It's going to be 5 p.m. in Britain, so it should be noon for us,
Nice.
which is a better time.
Much better time. Good time of day.
Yeah. And then they also had a little tidbit there about the writers for next season, and they said that between that next season and also Joy to the World, there are 6 writers. So obviously that's Stephen Moffat for
For
Joy
Joy to
to
the
the World,
World.
and then Russell T Davies is one of them. So there's 4 more writers, which is more than the 2 from the last season.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
he also noted that for one of the writers, this is their first script that has ever been produced. And then for one of the other ones, they wrote a short film, and then this is their second thing getting produced. So it's like very new writers, which I'm very happy to see that because I feel like that's a
Yeah.
good thing for Doctor Who to be doing.
Yeah, that's actually really great, and it also says a lot about the belief and what they've put to the table.
Yeah. They,
Makes me actually very, very curious what it'll be.
there was also a note. I think also in Doctor Who magazine, Russell T Davies said that like one of the writers turned in a script and he noticed that like, oh, you're bringing back a thing from the Ninth Doctor era, and he
Oh,
wasn't. He said like a weapon from the Ninth Doctor era, and he's like surprised to see it in the story. The only thing I can think of is the Delta Wave from the finale. Like I feel like there's not really a lot of weapons in the Ninth Doctor's era.
the oh, what is it? The gun that Jack uses
Yeah,
in no, not an unearthly child.
Empty
The
Child.
empty child. They both have child in the
Yeah,
name. Getting all these episodes confused. Yeah, the weapon that Jack uses, it's like the sonic gun. It's like square or something like that.
yeah, that could be it.
Or yeah, it
and
could be that.
and I think they do mention in that Valengard made that weapon, so like it would also be thematically relevant to what they've been doing recently.
No, man, that's true. That's true.
Because that's when he says like I got it from Valengard, and he asked the doctor if he's ever went there, and he said, "Yep, I went there once," and that's how you know he blew up the factory.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear more about that new season, and obviously Joy to
Me
the
too.
World is looking very fun.
We might have quite a bit to say about the next season as well, since I imagine after Joy to the World will be a teaser for the new season.
Yeah, Russell T Davis.
Some sort of teaser, as well as probably knowing when it's coming.
Yeah, Russell T Davis did recently say that it's coming sooner than you think, but I feel like that's just like standard PR talk. So I don't know if
That
that
makes
means
me think
anything.
at the very least it's earlier than season one was this year.
Yeah, it could be. I feel like that could also just be like saying like it's just going to be early in the year, so
Mm-hmm.
it could just be the same time.
I'll sit here and hope for March instead of May.
Yeah, it'd be nice. Oh, and I also noticed that I think that they released a synopsis for Joy to the World, and it mentions like the Doctor fighting one of his old enemies, and people are theorizing that means like the Master is going to come back or something, which is just funny to me because in the trailer that we saw for the episode already, he has already called Valengard one of his old enemies. So I think
Yeah,
that's probably what they're referring to.
It's Villengard.
Because they mentioned that like he goes to the time hotel and then meets one of his old enemies, and like we already know who that is. It's a Valengard.
Yep.
He has already said that in the trailer.
Yep. People are just over speculating.
Yeah, and then we did get that new trailer for Joy to the World as well, where we see the Doctor will face himself, at least briefly.
That's true. It's going to be really interesting. I'm very excited for it.
I know Stephen Moffat has said that the Doctor gets mean in this episode too, and people are theorizing that he's
Ooh.
just going to be mean towards himself, and that's what they're going to do. Because he does
I
it.
could definitely see
He does
that.
get very angry at himself in that clip we saw.
Mm-hmm. It would be on brand for the Doctor to do that to himself, yeah.
Yeah, and he also I think mentioned that like one of the oldest questions is going to get answered in this, and people are theorizing that Jesus Christ is going to be in it, which would be funny. It'd be very
All
funny to do
right.
that because like there's a star seed and everything, so it's going to be like the like whatever star it is that's in like the Jesus birth story. I forget what that's called. It would be very funny to do that though.
Especially in the Christmas special, it's like pretty well
Yeah,
timed.
it's the right time.
This will be interesting, that's for sure.
Yep. And I mean, we will be talking about that in our next episode because our next episode will be recording right after Christmas.
Yep. Yep. But it's not the only thing we're talking about. It's
Yeah.
next episode is gonna be a little bit weird because it's not gonna be two classic stories, but it's also not gonna be just a special just to talk about the Christmas special. We're kind
Yeah.
of combining those.
Yeah. Because it's just one episode, so we may as well just not have a standalone episode about Joy to the World. So we'll just. Our next episode will be The Tomb of the Cybermen, which is the premiere of season 5, which is 4 episodes long.
Yes.
And it's also our first fully surviving Patrick Troughton story, which is very nice to have.
Yes. It's an iconic story too.
Yeah, so we'll see Tomb of the Cybermen and then also Joy to the World. That will be next episode.
It's gonna be a good time.
So if you would like to join us in our journey here, you can subscribe to our Patreon to get into our Discord, where for just $1 a month you can get into the Discord and also get early access to episodes. And for $5, you can watch live as we record these, and you can tell us, why Evil of Daleks is the best Dalek story, actually. Stuff like that. And we'll just chat with you as we record these. Well, you will be in a text chat, and, we will have our voices. But yeah, just as a reminder, make sure to watch Tomb of the Cybermen and Joy to the World before our next episode. You can find those on BBC iPlayer, and Tubi TV for Tomb of the Cybermen, and Disney Plus for Joy to the World. And if you support us on Patreon for just $1 a month, you can gain access to our Discord, as well as early access to episodes. I've been Joy. You can find me on social media at Joy Content.
And I've been Tris. You can find me pretty much anywhere at Toon Tris.
And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.